In a world obsessed with power, dominance, and grandstanding, there is a quiet force that outlasts all noise: humility. It's easy to mistake humility for weakness, but history and psychology tell a different story. The truly powerful understand that loudness attracts enemies, while subtlety shields strength. Machiavelli's timeless wisdom reveals why the humble don't just survive, they rule longer and win deeper. This isn't about false modesty, it's about mastering the unseen game beneath ambition's surface. Ready to discover why humility is the ultimate secret weapon in power? Let's dive in. Humility, often mistaken for weakness or submission in modern culture, is in fact one of the most potent and underestimated weapons in the arsenal of power. Throughout history, those who have mastered the art of humility have proven to be the most enduring rulers, leaders, and influencers. The Machiavellian perspective dismantles common misconceptions, revealing that humility is not a passive surrender but a strategic form of strength. It is an artful restraint, a conscious choice to conceal one's full power, ambitions, and capabilities, thereby creating a psychological advantage over those who loudly proclaim their dominance. The humble, paradoxically, possess an invisible armor, one forged through self-awareness, emotional intelligence, and tactical patience, that allows them to survive turbulent political climates, social upheaval, and personal attacks that would crush less disciplined characters. At the psychological core of humility lies accurate self-knowledge, a deep, honest understanding of one's strengths, limitations, and motivations without the distortions imposed by ego, pride, or fear. This clarity produces emotional stability, which is the foundation of resilient leadership. Unlike the arrogant who are driven by fragile egos craving constant validation, the humble are anchored in a quiet confidence that does not need external affirmation to sustain itself. This psychological stability engenders trust in others and diffuses defensive reactions, because humility signals a lack of threat to the social order. People instinctively gravitate towards leaders who seem approachable and relatable rather than those who trigger envy or fear through ostentation. Machiavelli's timeless wisdom teaches that overt pride and arrogance often sow the seeds of downfall by provoking envy and opposition. Power attracts enemies, but arrogance magnifies the threat, accelerating conspiracies and rebellion. In contrast, humility acts as a social camouflage, concealing ambition and softening the glare of rivalry. This subtlety keeps adversaries off balance, unable to read the true extent of one's capabilities or intentions. The humble leader's apparent modesty is a calculated move, a psychological veil that masks a mind always calculating, planning, and adapting behind the scenes. This combination of invisibility and influence makes humility a tool of survival and ultimate victory. More than mere survival, humility represents psychological strength through self-regulation. The ego is a demanding master, incessantly pushing for recognition, superiority, and the satisfaction of pride. To master humility is to master oneself, to delay gratification, control impulses, and choose battles wisely. The humble do not surrender ambition, they simply postpone its exhibition until the moment when it yields the greatest strategic advantage. This capacity for patience and self-control is a sign of superior executive function in the brain, involving prefrontal cortex mechanisms responsible for planning, inhibition, and social cognition. Neurologically, humility correlates with increased emotional regulation and social awareness, essential faculties for leadership that lasts. History is replete with examples of Machiavellian humility in action. The Medici family, for example, sustained their dominance over Florence not by flaunting power openly but through quiet influence, strategic alliances, and discreet patronage of arts and politics. Their humility masked a ruthless and calculating drive that secured their legacy for generations. Similarly, Abraham Lincoln's public humility and genial manner concealed an iron will and sharp political acumen that guided a fractured nation through its greatest crisis. These figures understood that humility is a form of power that commands respect and loyalty precisely because it does not threaten or alienate. Social psychology explains why humility breeds loyalty and cohesion. Humble leaders create psychological safety for their followers by appearing vulnerable and open, inviting collaboration rather than competition. This sense of inclusion reduces factionalism and dissent, strengthening group unity. In contrast, arrogant leaders isolate themselves by signaling superiority and intolerance for dissent, fostering resentment and plotting among subordinates. Machiavelli's insight here is profound. power is not merely the ability to dominate but to inspire willing obedience. Humility is the social lubricant that enables this kind of influence. Cultivating humility demands rigorous self-reflection and emotional intelligence. It requires confronting the ego's cravings honestly and learning to satisfy them in covert, strategic ways rather than through overt display. This process involves a subtle balancing act, acknowledging one's strengths internally while downplaying them publicly, choosing moments to shine strategically rather than seeking constant spotlight. The humble leader listens more than speaks, learns from others, and accepts feedback without defensiveness, turning potential criticism into fuel for growth and adaptation. Communication styles of humble leaders further reinforce their influence. They employ active listening, ask insightful questions, and attribute successes to teams rather than claiming sole credit. This inclusive language fosters a sense of shared purpose and indebtedness, deepening bonds and trust. The humble communicate authority not through dominance but through connection, creating a psychological environment where others feel valued and motivated to support their vision. From a power psychology standpoint, humility enables flexibility. Leaders who are not rigidly attached to their own infallibility can pivot when circumstances change, absorb new information, and make course corrections without ego-driven resistance. This openness to adaptation is critical in volatile political, economic, or social contexts, where dogmatism leads to collapse. Machiavelli implicitly endorsed this adaptive humility, understanding that the wise ruler navigates chaos not with stubbornness but with calculated flexibility. Emotionally, humility fosters resilience. By decoupling self-worth from external validation and status, humble individuals are less shaken by failure or criticism. They possess a stable sense of identity that endures beyond momentary setbacks. This psychological toughness enables them to persevere through crises and emerge stronger, qualities essential for long-term rule and influence. In contemporary society, where narcissism and self-promotion are often rewarded, humility stands as a counterintuitive but powerful path to enduring success. Public figures who resist the temptation to dominate conversations with self-aggrandizement often enjoy greater longevity and respect. Their influence is not dependent on fleeting popularity but on deep-seated trust and legitimacy. This dynamic illustrates that humility, far from being a liability, is a rare and precious commodity in the marketplace of power. Philosophically, Machiavelli's counsel to embrace humility aligns with a pragmatic ethics grounded in human nature's realities rather than idealized virtues. Humility is not about moral submission but about strategic adaptation, recognizing when to reveal strength and when to withhold it, when to assert and when to yield. This nuanced balance requires psychological sophistication and a keen understanding of social dynamics. The humble always win and rule for long because humility is a profound form of psychological mastery and strategic wisdom. It blends self-awareness, emotional intelligence, patience, and social finesse into a cohesive approach that maximizes influence while minimizing threats. Machiavelli's dark wisdom teaches us that true power is often cloaked in modesty, wielded silently, and preserved through resilience. The paradox of humility is that it conceals strength beneath softness, making the humble not only survivors but ultimate victors in the ruthless dance of power.